Hello everyone, and welcome back to Tutorials of Tone. My name is Alex. Thank you so much for watching this video. Today's topic, September by Earth, Wind & Fire. A very simple preset, but you may be asked to solo. If you play a Blue Water Kings gig, whatever metropolitan area you're in, they call a lot of audibles, and as a guitar player, they might point at you. It's nice to have your options ready to go. So, let's dive into this simple preset and see what we have to offer. First up, the bulk of our tone, the clean sound. We have our input block set to stock settings, except the threshold of our gate is at negative 47.5 dB. That's where I like it for my Morse Music Man guitars. I'm using a position 4 sound throughout the clean tone, but feel free to use your neck humbucker, single coil, whatever you'd like to get that EWF tone. Next up, we're running into a Studio FF compressor. Pretty stock settings here. I have decreased the release time just a hair. No auto makeup gain, and instead turned the level up 6.5 dB to make up for the compressed tone. For our amp tone, I dialed in a Mesa Boogie Clean, the USA Rhythm 1, and this is what I use for 95% of my cleans when I'm not going for the authentic sound, whether it's a bass min or a twin reverb, whatever it is. I was using the original amp from this recording. This just pops better. The Mesa has a little bit more mid characteristic, so I've been utilizing this. Very neutral settings. The cut and the bright switch are engaged. Nothing to speak of in the input or output EQs. For our cabinet block, we are using a pair of Mesa Boogies. We have a Recto Straight with an SM7 from York Audio as the bulk of our tone, and then a traditional cab with a 121 dialed back 9 dB. In our preamp tab, you can see that there's a 40 Hz low cut and an 8500 Hz high cut. Just helps even the bandwidth out a bit. We're running that into a medium plate reverb. Stock settings here, giving us that breath that we may or may not need. If we are recording, I like to have this. If not, I may turn this off just to keep things nice and dry, funky. The level is turned down to negative 20 dB. You can also turn the time of this, just cut it in half. If you do bypass, you have this bypass mode set to mute effects in, and you can set the scene ignore function for when you turn it off. It won't re-engage with another scene. We run that into our output blocks. And now, for our lead tone options. Should someone call an audible and point at you, we got you covered. First up, we have our Brit 800 lead tone. This is a JCM 800. We are running into a pair of Marshall cabs for this one, 1960s, with a 57 rolled back a bit, and just a 10K high cut on the cab. We have the input boost engaged, and nothing to speak of for input or output EQs. We go from that into a delay block, which is at an 1/8 note digital mono delay. We do have our tempo at 134 BPM. It is set up to an expression pedal. We are at negative 12.5 dB, a nice healthy level when you hit the apex, just so you have room to control how much you have in there. That sounds like this. Just a nice quick slap in there. And as you can see, the filter block does engage. This is a 3 dB neutral boost. I like putting this at the end of every chain that I have if I have a lead scene or a lead scene potential. I have the bypass set to control switch 1, so that when it is turned off, the control switch, we bypass the effect. When the control switch is on, it is engaged. It does not default to this. You've been warned. But then, in my controller's window, you go to control switches per scene. You can see for all my lead channels, it starts on. In my FC edit, the hold function of the middle button on my FM3 can take that on for the clean tone if I want a solo clean. If you're on your Marshall lead, people want to have their diva moment, but you want to rip a little bit, take the filter block off so you can stay alive in the mix, just a hair. Now we have two variations of the same tone, the JP lead. This first one is from the 2021 touring rig that John used. This is a JP2C Plus on the red channel. These are the settings from the amp and then attenuated to this Morse guitar. Nothing really to speak of in the input EQ except for a little bump on 1K. And then we have the infamous curve. It's the iconic V. We have that running into our Mesa Boogie cabs again. Then we have John's gift of tone settings for his delays with 450 milliseconds on the left and 700 milliseconds on the right for his dual delay. This is at -9 dB. I would normally, if I didn't have this assigned to an expression pedal on the input gain, I would bring that back to -12.5 so I'm not just screaming delays. But the option is there if you so choose. Our other JP lead is the 2023 edition. As you can see, a lot of things had little tweaks. Different guitars, different woods, different ways you're playing. They all come in, and it is fascinating to A/B these two. As you go to each page, sometimes you don't see anything change. Sometimes things re-engage. And sometimes, like with grid clipping and excursion time, grid bias, things really shift. Half a dB at 1K. The V becomes much more extreme later. What does that all mean? Let's just hear it and find out. There are definitely some noticeable differences in those tones, and you have them for fun options. You don't have to use them. You could even put in your favorite lead tones in one of these scenes and be perfectly fine. Just a nice malleable template just in case somebody calls this tune. But if you're on a Blue Water gig, you're playing this tune. That's it for this preset. Quick, easy, and simple. If you liked this video, there are plenty more videos throughout the channel. Fractal 101, tutorials of tone, gear reviews, playthroughs, etc. that you can dive into. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next time.